Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're making a no-bake chocolate peanut butter bar. This recipe is found in different variations, kind of all over the internet, and they're all a little different. Like I said, different variations. And we're going to do this at least two ways. This is our Father's Day video, and I don't usually do two desserts in a row, but Father's Day kind of snuck up on me, and I thought something chocolate peanut butter would be really good for Father's Day. So we're going to go over the basic ingredients first, what you have to have. You need at least one bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips and a cup and a half of peanut butter, a cup of butter, and 9 to 12 ounces of vanilla wafers or graham crackers, and 2 cups of powdered sugar, confectioner sugar, frosting sugar, whatever you want to call it, but the white sugar. Now, I have a lot of options here. You can do a cup of crunchy peanut butter. Now you do have to have a half cup of creamy because this is our topping right here. 1 bag of the semi-sweet chocolate chips and half a cup of creamy peanut butter. We're going to put that on top. That's going to make our chocolate layer. But in the filling you can do a cup of creamy or a cup of crunchy peanut butter. But because I'm going to do a creamy version and a crunchy version, I have it split up here. You need the cup of butter in your filling, and you need the cookies in your filling. You can also add a bag of the little semi-sweet chocolate chips. You do want the mini ones because a whole semi-sweet chocolate chip is kind of hard to chew. It would be a large crunchy, in your bar, and it would have even a little bit of a bitter taste that much in one chunk. So I did not have any mini chocolate chips, and we're kind of having to make do with what we have now. I chopped up some regular chocolate chips so that the chunks weren't quite so big, and I'm going to use that in half of my batter, my main layer here. I'm also going to add a little bit of vanilla to mine, about a teaspoonful, and that's because the vanilla wafers that I got have an imitation vanilla in them, and they were the best ones I could get. And I say you need 9 to 12 ounces of cookie crumbs because the bags come in different sizes, whether you're getting vanilla wafers or graham crackers, and either one will work. They do have a slightly different flavor, and you want to crumble them up as fine as you can get them. Now you can do that in a food processor, or what I did is I just left mine in a bag, and I took just a pen, like a regular straight pen, like you would use if you were pinning fabric. Poke just a couple of holes in it, and then you can use your rolling pin and you can roll it, and that gets a lot of it out. You can also put these in a Ziploc freezer bag or something. If you have a food processor, of course you can do it in a food processor, but not all of us have a food processor. But another way you can crumble them up is simply by bashing them between your hands and kind of twisting them like this. And this bag that these came in is much thicker than any Ziploc bag you could get. And doing them in your hands like this instead of with a rolling pin, what happens is the larger chunks, if there's any bigger chunks left, it kind of works those up to the top so you can continue to crush them without working your really fine crumbs that you've already got done. So this is a good job for the kids, and this is a good recipe to make with the kids. Let's get some of this stuff kind of mixed together. I'm going to put my cookie crumbs, and I've got them pretty fine. They're not all perfectly ground. There's going to be a few little pieces in them. But I'm going to add that to my 2 cups of powdered sugar and kind of give that a little bit of a mix together. I mean, you can see there's a few little cookie pieces left in there, but not much. And if you do have a food processor, it will grind them up better. All right, now you can completely melt this butter, but I want to try to show you what these look like in the video before I conclude it. So I just have them at room temperature. It's faster if you do it at room temperature because you are going to put these in the refrigerator and thicken them up. So I'm going to add my cup of room temperature butter here. And then I'm going to divide my filling in half so we can do half of it creamy and half of it crunchy. This recipe is really easy to divide in half. If you don't want to make this many, this will make 20 to 30 bars. I mean, it'll make quite a few servings. And just mix that, you know, till you get it all mixed up there. I do have a few optional ingredients over here. Like I said, the bag of mini chocolate chips, that's optional. You don't need it. And you don't need the crunchy peanut butter. You can do it all with creamy peanut butter. And of course, if you didn't put the extra bag of chocolate chips in, it would be much less expensive. And if you only had to buy one kind of peanut butter, that would be much less expensive. And I know there are kind of peanut butter shortages now because of the recalls. And of course, if this is melted, well, if it's completely melted, it actually isn't going to mix up much easier than this because it's going to lump up in the sugar and the cookie crumbs, kind of just like this is doing. I've got a few chopped peanuts here. You can top it with those. You could top it with some peanut butter chips if you wanted to. You could even mix some peanut butter chips in the batter if you wanted to, I suppose. I mean, it wouldn't hurt anything. It's just kind of what you wanted. You could add some Reese pieces to the top. Or you could add some of the little mini Reese cups to the top, or even chop some big Reese cups up and put them on the top. But if you're going to buy Reese cups, there's not much point in making Reese bars or peanut butter chocolate bars. And this is really all stuff that I had in my pantry. There's a good chance you won't even have to go shopping to make this. If I had my peanut butter in here already, this would combine much easier, but because I want to do half of them creamy and half of them crunchy, it's taking a little bit longer to mix it because my peanut butter is kind of half of my moist ingredients. Oh, I want to go ahead and put my vanilla in here. My heavens. I'm just going to put about a teaspoon of vanilla in, and this is optional. You don't have to add this. And if you haven't got your vanilla yet from William at Vanilla Feeds Tomorrow, I'll put the link in here again. This is really good vanilla, and he donates all of the proceeds to Second Harvest Food Bank. Okay, I think I've just about got this combined. And I'm not going to like measure or anything. I'm just going to kind of divide it in half. This is very stiff even with that super soft butter. So when it's put in the refrigerator, which you are going to want to put it in the refrigerator for about an hour, and you're going to want to store it in the refrigerator, it will definitely be firm enough to hold and eat. Now at room temperature, the bars will get soft again. So when you're serving this, you don't want to leave it sitting out for a long time. All right. And of course, this whole process here you probably wouldn't do. You'd probably make them all creamy or crunchy and not have to divide anything up. I'm gonna put just a tiny bit more in my creamy bowl because my crunchy is gonna have the chocolate chips that I chopped up. So if I don't, my crunchy side will be much larger than my creamy side. All right, that's good there. Now I'm going to put my creamy stuff in here. The only other ingredient that you have to add other than what we just added is your peanut butter. And if you're making the whole batch creamy, you'll just put a cup of peanut butter in here. And that'll be your filling. And I'm gonna go ahead and put my crunchy peanut butter in my batch that I'm gonna make crunchy. Or my half I'm gonna make crunchy. And I'm gonna add my chocolate chips in here. And like I said, this should be mini chocolate chips, but I didn't have mini chocolate chips and we're kind of all making do. And that's really the only difference in the creamy and the crunchy. You put the chocolate chips in it and you use crunchy peanut butter. You can see how much easier it mixes with the peanut butter in it. And if you're making the whole batch, you don't have to mix it in with just the butter. Go ahead and dump the peanut butter, mix the butter and the peanut butter in together, and it mixes up really easy. Not super stiff, nothing you need a mixer or anything like that for. Just kind of fold it together like that. Okay, now we're gonna put this in a 9 by 13 pan that I have wiped with butter just to make it easier to get it out once it's cool. And I'm gonna go ahead and put my creamy stuff in here and spread it out on one end. And then we'll add the crunchy to it. You can see it already kind of holds its shape, but you can't pick it up and eat it like this. It's a little too soft and a little too sticky to pick up and eat. But once you put it in the refrigerator, that won't be an issue. And it will stay, you know, where you can hold it at room temperature for a couple of hours probably, if it's not super hot. If you're going to be taking it outside, if you're cooking out for Dad this weekend or something outside, it's probably not going to hold its shape very long. Okay, let me mix this up. Now, if you wanted to do a whole batch of the crunchy, you would want a whole bag. I think they're 12 ounces now. 10 no, 12 ounces, still that one is. You would want a whole bag of the mini semi-sweet chocolate chips. And I have seen this recipe with milk chocolate chips, and you can use milk chocolate chips. But keep in mind, milk chocolate is a little sweeter than semi-sweet chocolate. And this recipe does already have the 2 cups of sugar and the cookies in it. So if you do the milk chocolate chips, it makes it even sweeter. But you can use all milk chocolate in this if you want to. And especially if you cannot get semi-sweet chocolate. Okay, now I'm gonna dump my other half in here. And you can tell that the stuff, the crunchy stuff, is a little thicker. And there's 2 reasons for that. My peanut butter, of course, has the nuts in it, but also I mixed in those chocolate chips, which dried it out a little bit more. And you just kind of press it in there. And I'm gonna try to get this as even as I can, so when I put the topping on it, it looks good, even though I'm doing it 2 different ways. And half of it I'll top with the nuts, and of course the other half I won't, for folks who don't want any crunch in theirs. And you can also use other nut butters in this, like you could use almond butter or sunflower seed butter, and then top it with a few sunflower seeds if you wanted a crunchy version, or even add some sunflower seeds into it, because I know lots of folks have peanut butter allergies. So you can do other nut butters in this. They will work just fine. Make those substitutions for allergies and for stuff you can't find. I mean, the stuff you can't find, that's just kind of the time that we're living in. And you can see there, even though I did a little extra in my creamy side, it's still the crunchy stuff, because of the chocolate chips, takes up more of my pan. Alright, that's smooth enough. Okay, now we're going to make our topping. And all we're going to do is a bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips and half a cup of creamy peanut butter. And we're going to melt that. You can use your stove top, really, really low heat, or a double boiler. We've melted chocolate for lots of different recipes in the microwave here. You do want to go slow. Start with like 45 seconds and then just do it 15 to 20 seconds at a time after that, depending on your microwave. And you know, when it's this hot, if you got a microwave, use it. Especially for stuff like this, because there's just no need in heating up the kitchen. But if you don't have, just melt it on the stove. Okay, this is after the first trip in the microwave, and you can see the peanut butter is very melted and the chocolate's starting to melt. I've got a pretty good microwave, so we might not even have to put this back in, but I suspect it'll need at least 15 more seconds. If you've watched some of our other chocolate desserts, when we melt our chocolate, we add a little coconut oil to it or something like that to kind of give it that shine. Well, the peanut butter has oil in it, and that's going to do the same thing. And it's also going to give it that chocolate peanut butter taste in your topping. So you don't need any extra oil in it, and the peanut butter is going to make it melt really smooth and be really shiny. Yep, it's going to need just a little bit more. So after you put it back in, only about 15 seconds at a time. Okay, this is after the second time, and I think that's all it's going to need in my microwave. But mine's a pretty strong one, and you know, it's going to depend on your microwave. Just be careful. If you overheat the chocolate, if you get it too hot, it will lump up and it will ruin your chocolate. And we certainly don't want to be ruining a whole bag of chocolate with things being the way they are right now. Now, if you make just the creamy version of this, you're going to need a cup and a half of peanut butter. And you don't have to, like I said, have two kinds. And you can get a jar of peanut butter still for around $2. And you're going to need one bag of chocolate chips. You can get those for about $2.50. And you are going to need that half a pound of butter. That's probably going to be about $2. And the powdered sugar is only going to be about $1 worth. So, you know, you can make these fairly inexpensively. And like I said, it's going to make anywhere from 24 to 30 bars, depending on how you cut it. And if you look at the price of Reese cups in the store, like a single little Reese cup now is almost $1, depending on where you buy them and how you buy them. Now, you can still get the packs that have like 6 in them, I think, but they're small. They've downsized them. So if you like that flavor, the Reese cup flavor, this is a good option, and it's far cheaper than buying them. And this is a dessert, you know, that you can take to a cookout or a Father's Day get together, or they would be good at Christmas parties even, and Halloween parties and stuff on up in the year. Just about any gathering, potlucks at church and things like that, folks would love this. And because it is so rich, you get a lot of servings out of this. And you're not talking about that much. Now, of course, if you do the chunky version and you add in another bag of chocolate chips, and you know, you're talking about a little more money. Not really that much, you know, for one bag of chocolate chips, but anyways, we're going to pour this topping on here and of course just spread it out. And when we put this in the refrigerator, you do want to refrigerate it at least an hour. I really recommend at least 2 hours before you try to cut it. It's going to get real stiff and you'll be able to cut it into bars. Store it in the refrigerator. You can even cut it up and put it in the freezer. And it'll stay good in the freezer for several months. If you're making it, you know, just for you or for 1 or 2 people, cut it up and put it in the freezer. Wrap them up individually. Keep an eye on this and see which end is which so I don't mess up and put my peanuts on the wrong end there. All right. And it's going to look like this even when it gets hard. It's going to be really pretty with that chocolate spread on the top, kind of look like a frosted cake. And you can, you know, do designs in it or just kind of spread it out. You can even smooth it out perfectly smooth. But again, I like a little something in it so it looks, I don't know, just give it a little texture. I don't like it perfectly smooth, but you do it however you want it. Okay, this is my crunchy end. And again, the nuts are optional, but you know, you can sprinkle a few nuts on it. It just adds a little something to it. And these are just regular salted peanuts, the cheap ones that I chopped up. And I'm not going to put them on the creamy end at all because some folks just want that creamy, traditional Reese's flavor. And that's what you're going to get over here. Well, you're going to get that flavor on both ends, but this one's going to be more like the crunchy Reese cups. Anyway, and that's all there is to it. It just takes a few minutes to mix it up. And it took me longer because I was doing the 2 versions, so you don't have to do that. Now, I'm not going to even try to cut this right now. It does need to stay in the refrigerator for an hour, and I certainly didn't want to make 2 of these. But we're going to put lots of pictures in here so that you can see what it looks like. We're going to put them right here where I'm talking, the pictures of the bars cut up, because I do want you to see it. And before we go, I want to leave you with Proverbs 20, verse 7. The just man walketh in his integrity, and his children are blessed after him. This is our Father's Day video, and we truly need more men of integrity, more men to stand up and be an example for young people, especially for young men. More men to stand up and protect their children, provide for their families, guide them and take care of them. I think sometimes we kind of overlook how hard it is for men to be what God intended them to be. And I think sometimes we have a hard time appreciating that, because a man's job is hard, and sometimes his role is a hard role. And to be a man of integrity, you're not always the most loved person in the room. And I understand how hard that is for you. And when those times in your life come that it just is too hard to do, or maybe you fell short of what you feel like you should have done, don't give up. If you are fortunate enough to have one of those fathers in your life who is an example of what our Heavenly Father should be, please spend the day celebrating him, telling him how much you appreciate him, and let him know that you even appreciate those things that he had to do that were difficult. Because guidance and correction are not something that everyone is blessed with. And if you have a father who gives you that on earth, it will make it far easier for you to follow your Heavenly Father's guidance and his correction. I want to thank y'all so much for joining us in the Hillbilly Kitchen, and I want to wish all you fathers a very happy Father's Day. And I want you to know that we appreciate all you do, not just for your family, but for our nation. If you haven't already, please don't forget to click like and subscribe before you leave. And until next time, remember to put God first.